Rise and shine, bugs and slugs. It's a beautiful day to be miserable. I'm Amelia Mortem, serving up a peculiar platter, a sampler of all that's strange and unusual to help shake things up in the mortal realm. We call it the Mourning Show, and this is our very first episode, broadcast from our studio overlooking the beautiful boiling blood lakes in the ninth circle of hell. Right now, you're probably tossing back some hot bean water, trying to psych yourself up for another dreadful work week. I can tell because we at the Mourning Show like to keep our fingers on the pulse of the mortal realm. Although most of what makes up life on the land of the living is painfully dull, there's always creepy kids like you out there doing the weird work that makes my little black heart swell. Let's kick things off with a look at some of the bizarre goings-on that have been making headlines lately in the world of news. A wellness check on a 101-year-old man in the Netherlands revealed that his dead body was being kept in a freezer by his 82-year-old son. The man had been conversing with the corpse and told police, quote, "I did not want to let him go or I would miss him." It's like the movie Psycho meets Frozen. Looks like somebody needs to learn to let it go. Authorities are now investigating whether any fraud has been committed. But it's not just scary stories of dead bodies that can give you bad dreams. If you're struggling with nightmares, it might be time to reevaluate your midnight snack choices. Apparently, even the seemingly benign banana can disrupt your slumber. As it turns out, bananas are a superfood with the potential to stimulate vivid dreams and nightmares, thanks to their high levels of melatonin. Now, we're not saying to avoid them altogether, but timing is key. Eating a banana too close to bedtime can wreak havoc on your circadian rhythm and activate your imagination, and not in a good way. But fear not, banana lovers, for there is a silver lining. According to Fergus Smithers, head of food at Grubby, bananas contain magnesium, potassium, and tryptophan, which aid in muscle relaxation and promoting sleep. So if you're feeling peckish before bed, a banana might just be the perfect solution, as long as you give yourself an hour or two before hitting the hay. Speaking of snacking, a resourceful woman went missing after taking a wrong turn in the Australian wilderness earlier this month. The woman, referred to by authorities only as Lillian, managed to sustain herself on just wine and candy until her eventual rescue. That's right, folks, the ultimate survival diet. Lillian had planned on a 2-hour drive, but her wrong turn led her on a 5-day adventure, where she consumed the only liquid she had available, a bottle of wine intended as a gift for her mother. Eventually, Lillian was rescued by helicopter as she stood on a dirt road waving her arms about 37 miles away from the nearest town. She was treated for dehydration in a nearby hospital, but otherwise appears to be healthy. I think we can all agree that sometimes wine and candy are the only things that can get us through tough times. Finally, in Denmark, the small island of Bornholm was rocked by mysterious tremors earlier this month that left scientists scratching their heads. At first, they thought it was an earthquake. Then, seismologists theorized it could be the result of controlled explosions in Poland. Ultimately, the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland revealed that the tremors were caused by, quote, pressure waves from an event in the atmosphere from an unknown source. Could it be aliens? Ghosts? Too many Danish folk dancers stepping simultaneously? We may never know. But one thing's for sure, Bornholm is the new go-to destination for thrill seekers looking to add a little jolt to their day. Just make sure to bring earplugs and a hard hat. Well, folks, we are right smack in the middle of Earthling spring. Creepy crawlies are waking up, and with the thawing of winter's ice and snow, all sorts of creatures are coming out of hibernation. This brings us to a segment I like to call Familiars, fauna we're fond of. Let's go to our field expert, Ingrid Gold, for a closer look at the brain-eating amoeba that has made itself right at home in U.S. waterways.
Something that's been on my mind lately, though not literally, thankfully, is this fact about a brain-eating amoeba. I was doing my research and I was equal parts impressed and fascinated and disgusted when I found out about these little fellas. The CDC describes brain-eating amoeba as a single-cell living organism that's so small that it can only be seen by a microscope. It's commonly found in warm fresh water such as lakes and rivers and hot springs at relatively high temperatures of around 42 degrees. However, in swimming spots which are ideal breeding grounds for this little guy, this amoeba can infect humans simply by entering their nose, so diving into infested waters could be super dangerous. Once an amoeba gets in there, they destroy the brain tissue, causing a devastating infection called primary amoebic meningoencephalus, PAM for short, and it's almost always fatal. Symptoms after infection include headache, nausea, a stiff neck and seizures, followed by hallucinations and a coma, and death usually occurs within 5 days. Although there's no official categorization of what's considered a rare disease, the CDC does state that infections are rare, with only 29 recorded cases ever in the United States. Just be sure to check out for local signage next to the swimming holes before you decide to take a dip.
Moving on from fauna to flora, I'm sure some of you freaky folks have been thinking about starting a garden. You've still got time to sow some seeds, and with no fear of frost reappearing, it's also safe to tuck some little plantlings into their garden beds, or balcony planters for city dwellers. For those of you who aren't fond of pink frilly things, we'll fill you in on the most bewitching blooms to cultivate in your very own ghoulish garden. First on the list, the black dahlia, a beautiful and mysterious flower that has been associated with death and the macabre ever since the infamous murder case in the 1940s. It has a deep, dark color and a complex, layered shape that looks like it could be hiding secrets. While not actually poisonous, its association with murder and death makes the black dahlia a great match for your black thumb. Next up, belladonna. Also known as deadly nightshade, it is one of the most poisonous plants in the world. Its shiny black berries look deceptively delicious, but just a few can cause hallucinations, convulsions, and even death. Its sinister reputation as a poison has earned it a place in literature and mythology as a symbol of danger and temptation, making it a perfect fit for your ghoulish garden. The mandrake is another plant with a long history of superstition and myth. Its root is said to resemble a human figure, and it was believed to have magical powers in medieval times. It has a deep, earthy scent and a haunting, eerie appearance. Its presence in your garden will help solidify your reputation as the neighborhood witch. Next up, hemlock, a deadly, poisonous plant that has been used as a method of execution throughout history. It has small, delicate flowers and lacy leaves that give it an innocent appearance, but its effects on the body are anything but. Its association with death and the macabre makes it a great addition to any spooky garden. Last but not least, wisteria. While not poisonous, wisteria has a haunting, otherworldly beauty. Its long, twisting branches and cascading blooms give it an almost ghostly appearance, and its sweet scent is both alluring and eerie. It's also known as the vine that ate the South, making it a great choice for a garden with a creepy, overgrown vibe. Gardening is great for your mental health, and as it turns out, you might need more of a mood boost than you realize this spring. I'll tell you all about it in our next segment, Brains. Spring brings blooming flowers, chirping birds, and a rise in mental health disorders? That's right. Studies have shown that the incidence of mania and even suicide rates peak during this time of year. It's like nature's way of saying, hey, let's throw a curveball, just when you thought it was safe to step outside and enjoy the sunshine. So what's behind this springtime mental health roller coaster? Well, apparently it all comes down to our good old circadian rhythm. You know, that internal clock that tells us when to sleep, when to wake up, and makes us regret staying up late, binge watching our favorite shows. Our circadian rhythms follow a roughly 24-hour cycle, and they're regulated by environmental cues like sunlight. Now, during the spring, the days get longer, the sun shines brighter, and our circadian rhythms go, woohoo, party time! But for some folks, the internal clock gets a little too excited and goes haywire, causing mood disorders to go into overdrive. Picture this. Your circadian rhythm is like a finely tuned orchestra, playing a beautiful symphony of hormones and emotions. But when spring comes, it's like the conductor starts playing heavy metal on a kazoo. Suddenly, your mood swings are wilder than a roller coaster and your sleep patterns resemble a game of musical chairs. And here's the thing. When your circadian rhythm gets out of sync with your daily routines and the world around you, it can lead to some serious mental health issues. Like clockwork, people with bipolar disorder experience shifts and misalignments in their circadian rhythm, which can trigger manic episodes or bouts of depression. It's like their internal clock goes, "I'm going on vacation, see you later." But wait, there's more. Bright light therapy, a treatment where you expose yourself to intense light, can actually make things worse. It's like shining a spotlight on your already confused circadian rhythm, causing it to throw a tantrum and make you feel even more off balance. So what can we do to prevent this springtime mental health roller coaster? Well, for starters, if you're prone to mood disorders, make sure to take good care of your circadian rhythm during the winter months. Get outside in the morning, soak up that natural light, and resist the temptation to hibernate like a bear. And hey, if all else fails, there's always morning light therapy. Just make sure you're not blasting yourself with light during the delay zone, unless you want your circadian rhythm to party like it's 1999. So there you have it, folks. Spring fever is not just a term for love-struck teenagers or allergy-ridden adults. It's a real deal for those battling mental health issues. Take care of your circadian rhythm, and remember, don't let spring turn your mood into a bad horror movie sequel. And beware, for the season you're born in may haunt you throughout your life. Scientists claim that spring babies are cursed with a higher likelihood of developing mood disorders. But that's not all. Those born in the sunny season are also at risk for asthma, autism, schizophrenia, multiple sclerosis, and even Alzheimer's. Blame it on the lack of vitamin D due to limited sunlight exposure early in life. Apparently, this sunshine vitamin plays a pivotal role in regulating genes and impacting long-term health. So if you're planning a family, steer clear of summer romances and try to keep your romantic escapades limited to the month of February. And watch out for those spring-born babies. They may be brewing a spooky future. A great way to get out of your head and into a fresh mood is to get outside and let the stink blow off you. Travel, as they say, enriches your worldview. That's why we've compiled a short list of some of the spookiest destinations to visit this spring. First up, we have Aokigahara, also known as the Suicide Forest, located at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan. This forest has an eerily peaceful atmosphere, which is only disturbed by the occasional scream or sigh of despair. Just remember to bring a compass or you might never find your way out. Next, we have Onuli Beach, located in Maui, Hawaii. This black sand beach is not only beautiful, but also said to be haunted by the spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors. If you're feeling brave, take a dip in the water and see if you can feel their presence. Our third destination is Grüner See, or Green Lake, located in Austria. During the winter months, it's just your average park with a small pond. But come spring, the melting snow causes the pond to flood, creating an underwater park. It's like a spooky Atlantis, and who knows what secrets may be lurking beneath the surface. Finally, we have La Isla de las Muñecas, or the Island of the Dolls, located in Mexico City. The island is home to hundreds of creepy dolls hanging from trees, and the story goes that they were put there by a man who wanted to appease the spirit of a young girl who drowned nearby. Whether you believe the legend or not, you're sure to get a fright at the sight of the dollies in various states of disrepair. Some are headless, some are just disembodied heads, and some of the bodies have been burned or torn limb from limb. Locals insist they hear whispers and cries, particularly as the sun sets on La Isla de las Muñecas. You don't want to miss the last boat off this island. In my humble opinion, there are nowhere near enough creepy crawlies in this spring-themed episode. So without further ado, let's dig into what's sure to be a fan favorite segment here on The Mourning Show, Spooky Jobs. In this segment, we explore some of the eeriest and most spine-chilling careers out there. Today's episode takes us on a journey into the world of forensic entomology, a field where insects are the key to unlocking the mysteries of death. Forensic entomologists are scientists who study insects and their behavior in relation to dead bodies. These professionals use their knowledge to determine the time of death, possible causes of death, and other valuable information that can aid in solving criminal cases. As you can imagine, the work of a forensic entomologist is not for the faint of heart. They spend a lot of their time examining the insect activity on dead bodies, collecting and analyzing samples of the bugs to determine the species, life cycle, and developmental stages of the insects. Their work can be gruesome and revolting, but it is critical to help detectives solve crimes. These experts are also called in to testify in court as expert witnesses, explaining their findings and analysis to juries and judges. But where do forensic entomologists come from? How do they get started on this spooky path? Well, it all starts with an interest in both biology and criminal justice. Forensic entomologists typically have a degree in biology, zoology, or entomology, followed by specialized training in forensic science. Some professionals also complete internships or work as research assistants to gain practical experience in the field. If you have a fascination with the natural world and the macabre, then this just might be the career for you. So whether you're driven by curiosity, a desire to help others, or just an unshakable fascination with bugs, the world of forensic entomology is waiting for you. Now, let's explore some of the bizarre things that mortals got up to in springtimes past in a segment called Horrid History. The Kentucky meat shower was a bizarre phenomenon that occurred in Bath County, Kentucky in 1876. For a few minutes, a large quantity of meat fell from the sky, covering an area of several hundred yards. The meat was described as beef-like, with some pieces being as large as 6 centimeters long. The incident was witnessed by several people, and it was later determined that the meat was most likely from vultures regurgitating their meals mid-air. Although it remains a mysterious event, it is widely considered to be a case of natural, albeit bizarre, occurrence. Next up, we detail the dark and mysterious history of the jam boys of British-occupied India. This particular practice of coating young boys in jam or jelly and parading them around golf courses may seem odd and disturbing to us now, but swirling internet rumors insist that back in the 1800s, it was a common sight in the lush green fields of India. Legend has it that the British gentry, while indulging in a game of golf, were constantly annoyed by pesky insects and bugs buzzing around them. It was then that they came up with the ingenious idea of using young boys as living flypaper. They would be slathered in jam or jelly, making them the ultimate bug traps. The jam boys would follow the golfers around the course with their sticky bodies attracting all kinds of insects, from mosquitoes to flies. This not only protected the golfers from bug bites, but also provided them with a certain sense of prestige and luxury, as only the most affluent could afford to have their very own jam boy. But let's not forget the dark side of this bizarre practice. The jam boys were subjected to unsanitary and potentially dangerous conditions. Covered in sticky jam or jelly, they would often be surrounded by swarms of insects, leading to infections and illnesses. And of course, there was the issue of exploitation. These young boys, often from impoverished backgrounds, were used as mere tools to serve the British gentry. Thankfully, the practice of using jam boys eventually died out, and today it is nothing more than a dark footnote in the history of British colonialism in India. But next time you step onto a golf course, spare a thought for those young boys coated in jam and jelly, living life as human fly traps. It's a spooky reminder of the strange and often disturbing customs of our past. Speaking of jelly, I've got one hell of a recommendation for you. Next time you're out shopping, make sure to stop by Lush and scoop up a tub of their Plaque Sabbath. This unconventional tooth detergent comes in the form of a jiggly jelly rather than the traditional paste. Its invigorating flavor boasts notes of licorice root and Brazilian orange oil, and activated charcoal helps brighten and polish your pearly whites. If you're looking to mix up your morning routine, let Plaque Sabbath transport you to the dark side of dental hygiene. To help you stay entertained this spring, between episodes of the Mourning Show, of course, we've compiled some lists of creepy content for you to consume. Let's go to Ingrid Gold, who's got your recommended reading.
If you're interested in doing some further research on this week's theme, we've got a reading list for you. The Troop by Nick Cutter, which follows a group of young Boy Scouts dealing with both killer tapeworms and a potentially homicidal fellow camper. Devolution by Max Brooks is a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. Chlorine by Jade Song, a coming-of-age tale about a swimmer who feels compelled to join some mythical deep-sea creatures hell-bent on homicide. The Wishing Pool and Other Stories by Tenerife Du, wherein a so-called master of black horror weaves between tales of sci-fi suspense and good old-fashioned horror. Mayfly by C.J. Lead, a beautiful yet brutal tale of a woman who is an ice princess at children's parties by day, but takes on a bold new persona by night, inspired by Patrick Bateman of American Psycho. Narcissus by Adam Godfrey features 4 friends who travel to Greece on off the beaten path to search for a place that might be under the curse of ancient mythology. And a personal favourite of mine, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the best in the series from this author, in my opinion. Very vivid and beautiful descriptions of the natural processes of life and death on a possible future planet Earth.
Thanks, Ingrid. And what should we be watching this month?
Yes, we have plenty of movie recommendations for you to get your eyeballs into, starting with the classic Carrie from 1976. One of Stephen King's many adaptations, and one of the best in my opinion, Carrie is a coming-of-age story of a 16-year-old girl who, when bizarre events start to unfold around her, suspects that she has supernatural powers. Tourist Trap from 1979, where 9 teenagers get stranded at a secluded roadside museum. They're stalked by a creepy masked figure who uses his telekinetic powers to control the mannequins inside the museum building. Spring from 2014. After going through a stressful situation in his personal life, protagonist Evan flees the US to Italy, where he sparks up a romance with a woman who is harbouring a dark and primordial secret. Picnic at Hanging Rock from 1975. During a rural summer picnic, a few students and a teacher from an Australian girls' school vanish without a trace. Rites of Spring from 2011. A strong folkloric themed offering where a ransom scheme turns into a nightmare for a group of kidnappers who become victims of a horrifying secret that must be repaid every spring. The Happening from 2008, and the only Mark Wahlberg movie that I've been able to watch to the end. Here we see an apocalyptic threat to humanity that arrives out of the clear blue skies with a series of violent, inexplicable deaths spreading across the country. And in true M. Night Shyamalan style, this movie features an unnatural yet natural twist.
I love how well that list reflects the freaky folklore surrounding this time of year. This season hosts some of the strangest ceremonies and most dreadful deities. Take, for example, Xipe Totec, a deity in Aztec mythology associated with the renewal of life and vegetation in springtime. Also known as the flayed god, he would wear the skin of his sacrificial victims as a symbol of rebirth and renewal. This ritual was particularly gruesome, as the victims were often young men who were captured, sacrificed, and then flayed alive. The annual festival of Xipe Totec, carried out in spring around the time of the Spanish conquest, saw the ritual sacrifice of prisoners of war, whose skin would then be donned by priests and worshippers in a ceremonial dance. Despite its gruesome nature, the Xipe Totec ritual was considered an important part of Aztec religious practices, as it symbolized the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It was also believed to bring fertility and prosperity to the land. In the enchanting realm of the Foul Duessa, written by Edmund Spenser, springtime takes on an eerie and mystical allure. As the winter frost melts away and nature reawakens, whispers of ancient folklore permeate the air. Tales are spun of a mischievous sprite who dances amidst the budding flowers, luring unsuspecting wanderers into her whimsical traps. The witch lures in unwary travelers to transform them into silent sentinels of the forest. They are turned into trees. The moral of this captivating story, originally published in 1590, lies in the delicate balance between beauty and danger that spring embodies. The writer, through this vivid vignette, intends to caution readers against the allure of the unknown and remind them to tread cautiously amidst the enchantment of the season. Spring, like the Foul Duessa herself, may appear beguiling, but its charms can ensnare those who fail to heed the warnings concealed within its secrets. In Greek mythology, the story of Persephone is a chilling and captivating tale that weaves together the realms of the living and the dead, exploring the enigmatic origins of the season, particularly the arrival of spring. Persephone, the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, was a radiant young maiden who exuded beauty and innocence. One fateful day, as she frolicked through a meadow, the earth split open, and Hades, the god of the underworld, emerged in his chariot with an eerie aura surrounding him. Hades abducted Persephone and whisked her away to the gloomy depths of the underworld. Demeter, her heart shattered by the sudden disappearance of her beloved daughter, plunged the world into an unending winter. Crops withered, rivers froze, and the once lush landscape became a barren wasteland. In her despair, Demeter roamed the earth, searching desperately for her lost child. Meanwhile, Persephone found herself in the underworld, a place of shadows and ghosts. Hades, taken by Persephone's ethereal beauty, offered her a pomegranate. Consuming the fruit sealed her fate, forever binding her to the realm of the dead. And so Persephone became the queen of the underworld, ruling alongside Hades. In the depths of her sorrow, Demeter finally discovered the truth about her daughter's whereabouts. She confronted Zeus, demanding Persephone's return. Reluctantly, Zeus agreed, but with a twist. Because Persephone had consumed the pomegranate, she would have to spend a portion of each year in the underworld. Thus, a compromise was struck, and Persephone's annual reunion with her mother marked the arrival of spring. As Demeter's joy returned, so did the life-giving energy that had deserted the world during Persephone's absence. The barren landscape burst forth with vibrant blossoms, and the cycle of seasons began anew. The myth of Persephone, with its eerie abduction, haunting underworld, and the mystical connection to the changing seasons, serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between life and death. It speaks to the power of renewal and the eternal cycle of nature, where even in the darkest moments, springtime emerges to bring hope and rebirth. And finally, the Polish tradition of drowning the goddess Marzanna. It's a pagan practice that takes place every year on the first day of spring. The festival symbolizes the death of winter and the rebirth of spring. The celebration has roots in Slavic mythology, where Marzanna is a goddess of death and rebirth, associated with the end of winter and the beginning of spring. The practice involves creating an effigy of the goddess, usually made of straw or other materials, and carrying it in a procession to a body of water, where it is then thrown in and left to sink to the bottom. The festival is a creepy and twisted one, with participants wearing masks and costumes and engaging in wild and raucous behavior. It's said that the effigy of Marzanna represents the evils of winter and all the misfortunes and bad luck associated with it. By drowning the effigy, the people symbolically rid themselves of these misfortunes and welcome the new life and growth of spring. In modern times, the tradition is still alive and well in many parts of Poland, with some cities and towns holding large, organized celebrations that attract thousands of participants and spectators. The festival is an important cultural and religious event, and many people believe that participating in it brings good luck and prosperity for the coming year. While the practice may seem strange and unsettling to outsiders, it is a cherished part of Polish culture and an important reminder of the country's ancient pagan traditions. Well, I could carry on all day, but we're almost out of time. Ingrid and I will be digging deeper into some of today's more terrifying themes on our podcast, Morning After Dark, which comes out tonight at 9 p.m. Find us on your favorite podcast platform. Before I split, here's a lesson in macabre mixology. I present to you the Corpse Reviver. Now that's what I call a haunting happy hour. If you know what's good for you, you will click like and subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode of The Mourning Show. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with an episode that covers the perils of vacationing on planet Earth. Now scram, get out of here.